Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We're on action items. And they start off with all this deck of papers.
Yes.
So, yep, Gillis.
Bus replacement.
All right, let's see, 17 replacement buses at the top and under consent agenda item right here.
Yeah.
17. Yeah.
Grab it from the left.
This.
These are action items that are on there.
5 replacements.
5. There's a 17.
Yep,
It should
yep.
say 17.
Okay, go to
17.5, then
That's
financial
financials.
auditing services. Yeah. 57.
Water coaches.
Yeah.
Really great.
Those are the Gillis, 17 Gillis.
Is that updated with, you got 5, is that updated?
One's on the website.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Everybody good? Who's presenting?
I will be.
All right, good.
All right, so this is a 17 bus replacement request to replace 17 of our 2013 series buses. Those are the first set of compressed natural gas buses that GRTC had. It's incredible to think it's been 12 years already. We're going to go through the Washington State contract to replace these vehicles. It'll be split between federal 68%, state 16%, and local 4%. Each bus is going to be 867,370. It'll be 40 foot in length, and they will be compressed natural gas, and we expect them to be delivered sometime in late 2027, early 2028.
Anybody have any questions on that?
Do not. This time's well, right? I mean, this is normal.
Yeah.
Isn't anything abnormal? It's just replacement time.
It's 12 years or 500,000. How close do we get to the 500,000?
We surpassed it, right?
So we've surpassed the 12 years and 500,000.
Yes.
Okay, and you got to do both to get the funding, right?
Either one.
Either one's either.
Oh, it's either or, but we've done both. So we checked all the boxes. Okay.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
He says, one of them more.
Gypsy eyes.
17 buses, now we're going to 5.
5 buses, yep.
Like this. Got it.
Yep.
Need a motor pool.
So this is, oh, let me wait for you guys.
You opened the.
So this is the
The motor
expansion.
coach. Yeah.
Car's covering them.
Want to see what it is.
Yeah,
Thanks.
okay. It's getting pretty cold.
Yes, yes, that's right. That's right.
Did they see the initial? No. The board members? Okay. No.
You mean the initial bus price before it went up by
Yes.
116,000? I saw it when I read all the paperwork that was sent to me.
Yes.
All right, so I'll make that asterisk, yeah. All right.
I did have one question, really. I don't, if someone wants to hear all of it, we can, but the only question I had is why are these buses 867,000 and now these are 116? I mean, 1,080,000. Okay, because I couldn't find the bus type here. That's why I was just asking the question, because I saw the bus type over here, but not on this one.
So these are the commuter coach buses. That's what the bus type is. It's the larger Greyhound style looking bus that we use for the commuter routes, like the 95.
That's what, oh, these are,
these
and
are.
these are the shorter,
These are the
a little bit shorter, not the short, but shorter.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So the motor coaches cost a lot more to produce. So this request is an addendum to the initial request that we presented back in July of 2025, which was for 5 replacement motor coach buses through the state of Washington contract. Their initial price was $964, $297, and 55 cents per bus. We are requesting a change order amount of $116,557 per bus, So that'll be $1,080,854.55 per bus. Bringing the total contract to $5,404,272.75. And this is for specialized maintenance training for our personnel, because this is a new bus type. So they require training on the specific bus itself and also diagnostic equipment and tools in order to service the components of the vehicle. So this is just creating those resources to be available for them to utilize so that we can maintain the bus for the next 12 years.
And the good news is the additional cost from what we already approved is only $5,600 on the local match. It's a lot of money, but it's $5,600 more locally.
Motion for it?
Any other questions?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye, if I'm able to vote electronically.
Yeah.
You're good. You just voted.
All righty.
Financial auditing.
Financial audit.
Bottom.
Thank you.
Yep, this one.
Yep, got it. So GRTC issued RFP 255-16 for qualified public accounting firms to submit proposals for the financial auditing services for the fiscal 2026 financial audits for GRTC RideFinders, inclusive of the agreed upon procedures for the GRTC audit surrounding the NTD submission, as well as the preparation of the Form 990 for RideFinders, as well as the Old Dominion Transit Employees Disability Retirement Allowance Plan audit. That one would be for the year ending December 31st, 25. And then the proposal was to go out for 3 base years with 2 one-year option years. So this would be a 5-year ask. GRTC received only 2 proposals, one from Brown Edwards and who's our incumbent. The other firm was Crow LLP. Both of these respondents were deemed responsive and qualified public accounting firms. The evaluation committee evaluated each of the proposals based on the offer's ability to meet the requirements defined in the scope of services. The offers demonstrated relevant work experience and capabilities of the firm and the proposed project personnel and any subcontractors on the project with similar size, scope, and complexity, as well as the offerers demonstrated past performance on project and scope. Based upon the 3 criteria above, the evaluation team was selected to retain Brown Edwards and Company LLP. And you can see here in the box is a breakout of the engagements over the proposed 5-year period. These are all funded. The GRTC RideFinders and the RideFinders 990 are all funded with GRTC operating funds. The pension plan audit is funded as an expense of the Old Dominion Transit Disability Retirement Plan expenses. So the selected proposed pricing for Brown Edwards is below the independent cost estimate that was prepared in advance of the RFP that being advertised, which was estimated to cost for the first base year $128,000. For base year 1, $134,498 for base year 2, and base year 3 was $141,433. So the recommendation is for the board of directors to authorize the chief executive officer to execute a contract with Brown Edwards and Company for the base contract periods for fiscal 2026 through fiscal 2028 financial audits for GRTC and RideFinders, as well as agreed upon procedures for GRTC, the annual NTD submission, the tax preparation services for the RideFinders fiscal 26 through 2028 Form 990, and the Old Dominion Transit Disability and Retirement Allowance Plan financial audits for the plan years ending December 31st, 2025 through 2027, with the option for years for fiscal 29 and 30 for GRTC RideFinders agreed upon, the NTD and the tax prep, as well as for December 31st, 28 and December 31st, 29 for the pension plan.
So, any questions?
Quick ones.
Yeah.
What was the cost this year? Approximate. What was the cost this year? Just check.
What's the-
113 for proposed first year. Just curious, ballpark, 100-ish or more?
About 105-ish.
Yeah, so it's in line. And then I agree with the selection. If they're both equitable, I get why. Maybe the retention of the existing company for familiarity. Get that. I'm just curious if the other company bid was close or if it was way below.
They were very similar, very close.
It wasn't like they were like 60 grand, or 160 grand. They were in the neighborhood.
So we have the option at any time when we execute the base contracts that GRTC can terminate it within 30 days notice. We were hoping to get more respondents than two, I'll be honest with you. And we're working with procurement to kind of find out why we didn't get more, because as all you know, there's other firms that audit CBTA and other municipalities around here. So we're trying to do some diligence as to how. So we are going to proceed with this because we need to start the audits for the pension fund and Crescent, RideFinders and GRTC. But if we feel that there is a need to change, we have the ability to go back out.
Pricing's in line with last year. And if the competitor was close, then you got market value. So you got an equitable comparison.
So that was, my question was gonna be, what was the comparable prices? And if they're really close, you might as well go with the person that you know that's done a great job. You did find $15,000 in the budget, so that's good. But I had the same question. I don't have any others. Anybody else have a question? And so the motion we need is to recommend approval to the board.
So,
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
The next resolution up is for, is a administrative policy change. At the last finance committee meeting we had after following the February board meeting, we just briefly touched on, but this is the formal resolution. So, for the background, the GRTC administrative employees, there are two different plans. There's the 401A plan, which is referred to GRTC's salaried employee retirement plan. And there's the GRTC's 457 plan, which is referred to as the employee deferral compensation plan. Currently, GRTC provides 3% contribution to all eligible GRTC employees into the 401A plan. And eligible GRTC employees may make in elective contributions up to the IRS elective deferral limits into the 457B plan. Currently, GRTC matches up 100% up to 6% of the eligible GRTC employees' contributions in the 457 plan by making a matching contribution into the 401A plan. So the match goes, both the 3% and the match of up to the 6% go in the 401A plan. So this will make sense as to why the resolution is the way it is. So to support the GRTC's employment retention initiatives, GRTC Executive Manager proposed revising the provisions of the 401A plan to increase the employer matching contribution for employees with at least 8 years of service as follows. So currently, in the 401A plan, the eligibility is after 60 days employment. So that's why it starts with 2 months all the way up to 8 years of service. We match 100% of up to 6% of the elective deferral. What we're proposing is that when someone hits the 8-year mark, then we're going to do it so that right now we're in March. If someone turns to their 8-year anniversary in March of 2026, we would update the contributions effective January 1 of 2027 to keep it clean and easy for everybody for administration. So for that, we would match 125% of the first up to 6%. So it's an incremental 1.5%. So based upon the 2027 proposed budget, the labor budget worksheets that are underlying the wage budget, there are currently 65 GRTC employees, and these would be the exempt employees. They're not bargaining units employees. That are active, who are active in the 457B plan, who have greater than 8 years of service. The incremental 1.5% matching contribution, which is 25% of 6%, for those 65 employees would be about $71,000
Annual.
and is contemplated in the current version of the fiscal 2027 proposed budget. The current MetLife 401A plan docket template accommodates a fixed tier matching formula. Currently, it's just the flat match. So we don't have to make the plan that we're in already accommodates this. So all this is, if this is authorized by the board, we can contact MetLife and just change the funding formula in there. It should happen relatively quickly. So the recommendation is that the board of directors authorize the chief executive officer to amend the GRTC Transit System Salary Executive Employee Retirement Plan, the 401A plan, to document to reflect a fixed tier matching contribution formula for the GRTC employees who have attained 8 years of service as of the beginning of the calendar year, to be a match of 125% up to 6%, so total of 7.5% of the GRTC's elected deferrals.
Any questions?
Just an added benefit?
It
New?
is, yeah.
So that currently we have the benefit, we're just recognizing the seniority. So if you're here over 8 years, instead of getting, it's a new twist to it. Yes.
Only 100% all the
It's
time.
an upgrade to
It's
the
an
eight.
upgrade of an existing benefit.
Correct. Yeah.
Currently, everybody from 2 months to forever is 100%.
It's 100%.
I just want to draw the line at 8 years. And this is just the administrative one, just front office. This is a
Yes.
different plan for,
This is non-bargaining.
it's just, yeah, intro.
Do you think you're gonna end up with that, having anybody participate that hasn't been participating, they'll jump in? Cause right now, you put in $4, you get $4. Now you put in $4, you get $5. I mean, that's, you don't envision anybody that's not in jumping in? 'Cause you got 71,000 as the approximate, so I was just curious.
I think I don't have offhand say of the eligible participation, I don't have that figure, but
I mean,
what
I was on the fence of doing it.
probably north of
Another,
5% participation to that
Yeah.
level.
Oh, yeah.
if I could get another $1 for every 4 I put in on top, 4 plus 1 for that. I would just caution that the 71,000, I don't think it'd go up tremendously, but it might go up some because you might.
Because yes, it does have the potential to go up.
I don't have a problem with it. Any other questions? So we need a motion to make a recommendation for approval to the board from the finance committee.
So moved.
So,
All in favor?
It's this one right here.
Last finance committee meeting, we provided the general framework in like a spreadsheet version. So the plan was to come back for more of an actual recommendation. I do want to update you that we did go over this development committee, and their recommendation is to hold it until April, so that they have the opportunity for us to actually run the numbers. And then they can see the impact and talk with their board to be able to show if there is a budget impact. But I will still run through it. It's very similar to what I just added in a little bit more definitions to the tier. So evaluation of expansion services. This could include frequency changes, actual alignment that goes a little bit further. And this is for whether it's covered jurisdictional or a new business entity requesting new service considerations. So this is a framework model that is done for a tiered funding responsibility bands that looks at where you kind of fall within the spectrum of regional versus local. And the idea is that staff would first take a look based on the actual attributes and criteria under each of the categories and go in and define the routes. And then come up, because again, it's a range of 80 to 100 if it's regional. And then those come up with those ranges, justify it to the development committee. And then the development committee would then recommend it to the finance committee, and then eventually it would go to the full board for each route. So it's not a one by one. Of course, it's dependent on budget. If a route is identified as a 50% regional, and regional would just mean a combination of our revenue sources to include CVTA. We of course have to have the 50% to even consider it being a 50% route, or maybe the shift ends up being more local depending on what it is. I did drop in, you guys, some examples just so you could see. Show. So this does break down like the actual, these are the expansions that we've currently done. So under consideration would be basically all those grants that we already had. We have applied for new grants to go with pretty much every single one, but won't find those out until April. But those are the ones under consideration to understanding the current local versus regional support. And that would include, I guess, the match with the grant. And then once this is set, we would of course do an MOU with the jurisdiction for kind of lay out the 5-year beyond step down from the grant to be able to see what the reliance on our funds as well as the reliance local would be laid out well in advance. So it pretty much put all of them, the categories as kind of a tier 2. So a shared responsibility, which is very similar to the conversation we had back in the fall, looking at some of these where, yes, they may be particularly in a jurisdiction, but they end up tying into the network, which makes them also regional. So this was a 7A, 7B, where the frequency increases. It hits both the city and Henrico County, but ultimately it serves the airport. The 19 frequency, even though it's 100% in Henrico County, it's definitely got a regional entity, knowing it's core area, a lot of transfer activity hits into our main network and connects to the BRT. The 1A being in a completely new extension, hit a whole new geographic and market for improvement connectivity. And then the Virginia Center Commons and JSarge Reynolds connection, that also somewhere around 50 to 60% regional. And then, of course, as predicted on the back, the micro transit zones end up coming in as more local, where Powhatan is a lot more local, Ashland, because it does tie directly into our fixed route network, as well as is a little more of a dense area with that first mile, last mile. Still very local, but is a little bit higher on tier of regional based on the spectrum. This is a draft example, just to see how they kind of broke out. So again, the request was then to kind of take this and then put the actual associated dollars with it, so we could see, be able to react to it. And this, of course, would input into our FY27 budget efforts once this is adopted in terms of framework wise. And then we'll discuss that, but we know that each of the jurisdictions, of course, also released their budgets earlier this week. So we'll be also reaching out to their staff to understand how that plays into our budget, to kind of refine those numbers, and then we'll talk through this as well.
No questions. I agree to, I think it's smart to let it go back to the jurisdictions and have conversation about it, so we can run it past the folks who are knowledgeable about it. So I appreciate that time. Like, I mean, we talked about it a month ago, and now here's some more details to it. So I think we get it in the hands of the folks who can weigh in. That's great.
I think you've done great work to take a topic that could have been a little crazier and break it down to something that seems to be, I agree, we should probably have a little bit of time to digest it. So April's probably reasonable, but it's in line with really what I was asking for, so that we could do MOUs and there could be some consistency to them and people could understand them, and we'd have a funding source for the expansion. So I think that you've done a good job, but I agree, let's digest it for a minute.
And a benefit of that is that will actually have what we got funded before the next finance committee meeting.
And I would say that because of their recommendation and where we're at, instead of having to make a motion and a vote on this, we could just say that, I think we're all just expecting it in April. We could bring it back to the board meeting in April with maybe a quick, okay, we're good next month. But I don't think we need to vote this month because we're not gonna take a recommendation this month.
Yeah, correct. No, it's gonna come off of the full.
The agenda, yeah, so, thank you for the work. We'll all take the time to digest it with our jurisdictions and hopefully we'll get this thing put to bed in April.
We'll supply them with the numbers.
All right. January. Number 6. Hopefully we go to 10.
Oh, yeah.
Next up's the financials, but I don't know if you gave us the,
I did. It's the stick package with the graphs. Should, I think.
it was underneath my agenda, sorry.
To start with the a high level overview. So this is the report for the 7 months, January 31st, 2026. So top revenues are unfavorable to budget by $7 million on a budget of 61.95 million or 11.33%. So the breakdown of those, the biggest components of there that we see is on the local government component. As one of the budgetary assumptions for fiscal 26 was their local funding of $5 million out of fund balance, which through 7 months is 2.9 million. So that's more than half of it. And then the second large contributor to that is in the federal funds. Federal funds is unfavorable by 3.9 million. And this is primarily due to the timing of recording of the 5307 PM flex. We're currently in the process of finalizing those grants. And the construct composition of the grants relative to the ALIs has changed a little bit. So we didn't book it until we finalized that with the FDA. Put in perspective from the federal standpoint, that's $3.6 million of revenue from the federal standpoint that will come in. So when you look at this, I'll probably jump to the P&L. It's probably easier to see. Sorry, went too quick. So right here on this line item, you see this year to date, the operating contributions for federal is unfavorable, 5.59765 million. So when you overlay the 5307 PM, $3.9 million will offset that to bring that less unfavorable. And PM is an 80/20. So the other line item impacted is down here on the operating contribution local, the negative 267,493, $900,000 will be over that. So that's going to turn, and that makes sense as we progress to the next page for the full year outlook. As I was mentioning before, down here on the bottom line, this was the operating contribution. This was the assumption of the GRTC fund balance. So 7/12 of that is 2.9 million. So when you look at the pieces, that explains the shortfall of the 7 million. When we come down here from a fund perspective through the 7 months, we're still showing a surplus right now, currently through January, of revenues exceeding the expenses of $727,000. So the flip side of this, as you can see here, the operating expenses are below budget by 8.697 million. And what's contributing to that will go to the F30. So the operating expenses, we have kind of a combination of items that are positive, and then we have the items that we've talked about in the prior months that have negative. Sorry. On this chart, this is the
At page 10.
So Yes, page 10, sorry.
Making sure everybody's on the right page.
So on page 10, as you see here, up on the top line, this is our labor. So we're favorable on the labor line. Overall, labor budget is favorable to budget 1.9 million on a budget of 38.83 million. So you can see the components. The vehicle operations is favorable, about $887,000. And that's, when you look at the components, we're unfavorable on the operator line when you combine both the operator wages and their vacation pay, but we're favorable down on the fringe. So it ends up netting up, as well as we're favorable in the supervision. So as we had talked about, we're down in FTEs. As you can see, this is the January report. So we have, on this, we have a total of 344 FTEs in operation versus the budget of 368. Because of that, we're stressing our overtime. Overtime is at 8.12%, and the overtime budget was at 3%. So even though we have lower people, we're spending more because we're paying time and a half for that equivalency. However, we have vacancies in the supervision that are offsetting that, and because we don't have those FTEs, we're not paying the fringe benefits, the taxes, and the medical on them. So that's where that comes through. So we end up being overall favorable on the operation side. Vehicle maintenance and facility maintenance are pretty close. They're slightly positive, and the next big contributor is in the G&A section. G&A is favorable to budget by 883,000. So overall, our labor line is favorable. So services is the next line. In services, this is the planning and consultancy expenses related to the large state-funded and federally funded projects, North-South BRT, the Western Expansion, the Downtown Transfer Center, the Park and Ride. The expenditures have not progressed through here yet. So we haven't had the expenses. And since these are 46% federally, 50% state-funded, they're reimbursement based. So if we don't have the expense, we don't have the revenue. So that's another portion of why the revenue is below budget. So that explains that favorably. We're slightly favorable on materials and supplies, and that's primarily, as you can see down here in this category here, it's slightly unfavorable in fuels and lubricant, 84,000. We're favorable on tires and tubes, 144,000, and vehicle part. The other slides are primarily parts. We're favorable there. So overall, it's not favorable, but obviously there may be some increased expenses on the fuels and lubricant lines as whatever happens and transpires in the next couple of months related to fuel prices. But overall, I think with the favorableness in the other categories, it should.
It's going to be a spike, but
a spike in the ameliorate, but we have other favoring offsetting favorabilities in that same category. Utilities, you see here, this is $235,000 favorable. Primarily that is a rebate. It's in utilities, but it's in for our communications telecom rebate that's in there that's driving that. Due to some good work from our IT folks, we'll give them a shout out for achieving that for Desktop. And then on the casualty and property line, this is what we've seen this trend through the first 6 months. This is due to the increases in the provision frontage or the increased number of incidents with the new operators and so forth. I don't see the need to provide more. So I think this might be where it's going to stay for the balance of the year, but we're going to watch it. We're fingers crossed. The next line item, which is unfavorable, is the paratransit. This is our third-party contract with We Drive You. The demand is driving this, and the board was briefed by the report from WSP, and there's some actions that we're going to undertake, but it's going to take some time to let those flow into the P&L. So ups and downs in there. So that's primarily the items in there that are the significant is the non-existing consulting fees that will come in probably at some point. So how does this all roll up? I'm going to go back to our full year forecast, which would be on page. Going to page 7. I'm sorry. Yeah, page 6. So basically, this is the P and L with, so the annual budget on the left, and this is what the finance staff, we've sat down looking through 7 months of activity and what we think might happen over the next 5 months. So right now we have a little over 700,000 surplus. We think that we're going to end the year slightly positive, not significantly, but slightly. So what we see here is that we're closing the gap on, we're actually going to have revenue unfavorable around 4.2 million, which is less than the full year of the GRTC funded. So what we're seeing is, as I talked to you before about the overlaying of the PM expenses, we're showing that we're going to still have a negative or unfavorable variance on the operating contributions federal, and that's going to be more or less a function that we're forecasting down here. I'm forecasting that planning and consulting fees will be under budget by 2.5 million. So if you do the math on that, 50% of that would be the state under contribution hit, and then 46% would be the Fed. So we're forecasting that in through both the operating contribution, the state. We do have some other items that are positive that are going to overtake that deficiency, as well as we also see that the slight operating contribution local will be slightly favorable. The operating contribution for Chesterfield, this is a function of the DRPT grant for the Route 1 extension. We've been, for the fixed route portion, we've been running about 150,000 a month. It's about 1.8 million. The annual budget was 2,190,000 that was put in there. So that's, we were forecasting to be, based on the ridership sense, the revenue miles incremental that are driving that. On the expense side, we're expecting the equipment and facilities maintenance group to be slightly positive. This is probably going to be, we're anticipating slightly positive labor combined with some slightly positive supplies, parts expenses. Transportation, we're expecting, and this is excluding the Spectran portion of it, the third party. This is just on we're expecting that to be favorable, primarily on, as we see the favorable labor that we've achieved through 7 months. We don't see that going away or being offset because we're not going to overhire above our authorized headcount. The planning consulting, we're thinking about $2.5 million favorable, primarily from the consulting fees. As I said before, the insurance and safety, we have as 450 unfavorable, kind of just stopping where we are unfavorable, figuring the next 5 months we might be even at budget on each month. General administration, 1.672 million. We've got $882,000 in favorable payroll. The rest is some other expenses that are running favorable at this point. And Spectran, forecasting about $500,000. We're thinking that we're going to get some of the benefits and the cost of reductions that we put through the study through the balance of the year. All in all, like I said, the end of the year, and slightly positive, $350,000. Any questions on the P&L, the revenues and expense side and forecast?
Are we gonna take what we think we didn't receive that we will receive for like consulting fees for the revenue and the expenses and build that into next year's budget?
That's one of the items on the fiscal 27. Yes, we're doing that analysis with the project managers to find some, and this is,
I mean, it won't be perfect, but we're gonna try to fine tune it in because there's gonna be,
That's right.
they're both the revenue and the expenses are coming. We can't just lose sight of them.
right. So and the way this happens is obviously you got 96% funded between Fed and state. So you're almost an over. So if you're missing them in the expense, you're missing in the revenue, they're a wash. So we're just going to recalibrate the time and put them in the timelines.
Any other questions? All right.
Yes, the next item is budget update, but as Adrian stated, budget for each jurisdictions came out this week. We want to take the time to figure out what those come to you with the same jurisdictions. We will have a budget update in April and also for the full board, but definitely the finance committee first.
We already know that's delayed for April.
I
think it's later.
think we've let them know that yet. We're able to delay the April board meeting by 1 week because of the way the month comes in. The full finance committee will still be before the. That is what time we have to see.
All right. So we're on 11, zero fare.
We're not doing that one.
We're gonna skip that. All right. Well, so we're moving right along. That's good. What do we have? Anything under new business?
The study, the zero fare?
Oh, we were planning.
We were just gonna update in
I
general.
apologize.
We are doing zero fare sustainability study.
Yeah, just wanted to update you guys on just what's in general. We had mentioned before about the Plan RVA study that's happening, where looking at basically the sustainability of it, looking at development piece. So they're talking to corporations to understand and educate on zero fares, as well as just transit in the region, kind of taking even bigger than what zero fare is. But they're also taking the work that was done by Garrett Walker and for all those additional review as far as revenue opportunities. And looking at what currently went to the General Assembly and how that ties into kind of what was Northern Virginia. And we'll be bringing you guys probably in June, we're thinking is best once we get past budget update on that study, but that's still in the works. You know, they sent out letters to a lot of the various businesses in the area. That was both a joint between the RideFinders GRTC board. So Mr. Nelson's signature was on it, as well as the Plan RVA chair's signature was on it as well for the joint. Just wanted to keep you guys updated as conversations are happening out there related to, for the most part, it's just the relevancy of transit in the Richmond region, how that ties into the benefits of zero fare.
Any questions? All right. What do we have for new business? Buddy?
Got nothing.
All right. Well, that brings us to one of the best moments of the meeting. Unless anybody else, does anybody else have anything they want to share?
Yep.
All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Take care.
That's a quick meeting.
Yeah.
I told you.
That was efficient right
That
there.
was an easy meeting.
It was.
And we got ads in and we still did it.
Good. Planning commission, they're not, I'll take it.
Be careful with all that snow out there.
It's not gonna stick on the roads, but
Yeah.
it's definitely clean in winter time.
It's a lot more snow than I thought, though. I'll tell you.
It is.
But they
much
said it
more.
could be a couple inches in the grass, but it ain't gonna do nothing in the roads.
Feel free to leave your papers so I can get you a binder.
Actually, I
You may have
What is your
them.
face? I should have recorded you.
all the
I
selection.
should have recorded you on that one.
But you,
I got what I
it
wanted
would
to
be
say.
good if we
I
could
got
program
mine.
these into the
Let's
tab.
put in there. They are. Yes,
We'll bring them out next time.
It's, you know, it's a
Now, this is
good number of pages.
Is Natalie doing better?
She's been frustrated.
Yeah, I know. That's what happens, but hey. After me, you know, I want to look at